Stand up from your couch right now and notice exactly how your entire body responds within just a few seconds. You feel winded almost instantly, and your legs feel heavy, even though you have barely moved 20 feet at all. Then, after just a few minutes of walking, your body somehow finally catches up and the winded feeling disappears completely. That strange gap between standing up and feeling normal again is not weakness, it is a hidden energy transition problem. Most people blame this feeling on simply being out of shape, low carbs, not enough protein, or aging badly too. But none of those common explanations are actually correct, and the real cause is far more specific than you think. The real issue actually lives deep inside your cells, in a process called the mitochondrial electron transport chain breaking down. Your cells simply cannot ramp up energy production fast enough to match sudden demand, and honestly, that truly changes everything. This is not a diet problem, not a caffeine problem, and it is definitely not a discipline or willpower problem. It is simply a machinery problem, and machinery can always be repaired once you know exactly which parts are broken. Today, I'm going to give you the 5 specific things that repair this machinery, backed by real published science. And at the very end, I will share something I personally experimented with myself for almost 9 months straight now. It is a compound that can literally bypass broken parts of your damaged mitochondria when used the exact right way. There are some very real caveats with it, so stay with me until the end before you ever try it, because using it the wrong way could quietly undo every single bit of progress the first 4 steps actually create. So, let's start with the very first fix, because this one sits underneath almost everything else you will hear today. Inside your mitochondria, there is a process called the TCA cycle, and it actually feeds the entire electron transport chain. Every time you eat food, electrons get pulled out of it and travel down this chain to become usable energy. Without 4 specific B vitamins, that chain simply cannot run properly, no matter how clean or perfect your diet is. Those 4 particular vitamins are B1, B2, B3, and B5, and together they are essential cofactors for this exact reaction. Without them, your body cannot produce enough of a molecule called NAD, which everyone online keeps talking about right now. NAD is required to shuttle electrons and actually generate ATP, the very real currency your body spends for physical energy. That is exactly why you get up off the couch and suddenly feel winded within the very first few seconds. It has absolutely nothing to do with available glucose, no matter how much sugar or carbohydrate you have already eaten. If your body cannot generate enough ATP fast enough, you will feel exhausted, regardless of how much you have eaten. Research has confirmed these B vitamins are essential for fatty acid oxidation, pyruvate metabolism, and the entire TCA cycle itself. When these vitamins run even slightly low, your mitochondria already quietly underperform, long before you ever notice any obvious symptoms. Here is the part almost nobody talks about, and it will completely change how you think about supplementing these vitamins. Do not reach for a cheap generic B complex, because your body may not be able to use it properly. Instead, always look for methylated forms, specifically methylfolate, methylcobalamin, and riboflavin 5-phosphate, which your body absorbs far more easily. Around 40% of people carry a genetic variation that makes it very hard to convert synthetic B vitamin forms. If that includes you, a cheap supplement could be doing almost nothing for your energy, no matter how consistently taken. Timing matters here, so always take these vitamins in the morning, together with your very first meal of the day. Taking them at night can disrupt sleep and tell your mitochondria to keep producing energy while your body actually rests. Even a small amount of food is enough, because taking them empty will just cause your body to excrete them. Get this one foundation right, and everything else you are about to learn works significantly better and far more efficiently. The second fix is magnesium, and it might genuinely be the single most underappreciated mineral in this entire energy conversation. Here is why it matters so much. ATP only exists inside your cells as something called a magnesium ATP complex. That means without enough magnesium, your body could be producing plenty of ATP that it simply cannot access or use. Picture your energy sitting right there behind a locked glass wall, fully made but completely unreachable without the right key. Somewhere between 50 and 80% of people are not getting nearly enough magnesium, even while eating a healthy diet. Not every form of magnesium works the same way, so the specific type you choose matters more than you think. For deep, restorative sleep, magnesium glycinate before bed is actually one of the most effective choices you can possibly make. It crosses into your brain and helps produce a calming compound called GABA, which genuinely improves your sleep quality overnight. That deep sleep window is exactly when your mitochondria actually do their real repair and rebuilding work behind the scenes. You're not simply fixing a deficiency here, you're actively optimizing the entire recovery window your body relies on. Magnesium malate is another strong option since it is bound to malic acid, which directly supports the cellular energy process. If you want cognitive support and mental clarity during the day, magnesium threonate is genuinely worth trying in the morning. It crosses into the brain more efficiently, which can noticeably support focus, memory, and overall mental sharpness throughout your day. A reasonable daily amount is somewhere between 200 and 400 milligrams, depending on your body size and needs. Get your magnesium right, and you are giving your cells full permission to finally use the energy they already have. The third fix centers on NAD itself, the exact molecule that genuinely helps electrons move and actually create usable energy. Without NAD, your cells would stop functioning within seconds, which shows you just how genuinely essential this molecule really is. You can take NAD in a basic oral form, but unfortunately, your body absorbs very little of it that way. That is why many people choose intravenous NAD instead, and it does genuinely work well for boosting cellular energy levels. But there is a smarter delivery method worth understanding, one that protects the molecule as it travels through your body. It works by essentially wrapping NAD inside a tiny fat-based outer shell with both a water-loving and a fat-loving side. That outer shell can actually merge directly with your own cell membranes instead of being broken down in your gut. In simple terms, it skips the digestive breakdown entirely and delivers the NAD straight into the cell where it belongs. Think of it like finally getting delivery confirmation, proof that what you took actually arrived exactly where it needed to. Without that kind of targeted delivery, you might sadly just be creating extremely expensive urine instead of real cellular energy. NAD is not the entire solution, and it will not replace the foundational work the first two fixes already do. Think of it more as a genuine bonus layer, one that can meaningfully boost energy once your foundation is solid. If you already have the fundamentals in place, a well-absorbed NAD source can be a smart addition to your stack. Just remember, absorption is everything here, so pay close attention to the delivery method before you wisely spend your money.
The fourth fix is coenzyme Q10, and most people have heard of it without truly understanding what it actually does. Everyone says it is good for your heart, but its real job inside your cells goes far deeper than that. Q10 sits inside the inner mitochondrial membrane and shuttles electrons along three very separate complexes within the transport chain itself. Picture a catcher standing at home plate, ready to catch every single electron thrown its own way during this process. If that catcher's mitt is too small, electrons miss it completely and scatter around like errors in a baseball game. When that happens, electron flow rapidly slows down, ATP production drops, and oxidative stress quietly builds up inside your cells. A large analysis covering over a dozen clinical trials and more than 1,000 people found something genuinely worth noting. Q10 produced a clear, dose-dependent reduction in fatigue scores, which is honestly always a very difficult thing to properly measure. But here is where most people get the details wrong, and it genuinely changes how effective your supplement actually is. Always choose ubiquinol, not ubiquinone, because ubiquinol is the active form your body can use immediately without any extra conversion. Q10 is fat-soluble, meaning it absolutely must be taken alongside a meal that contains a reasonable amount of fat. A solid starting point is usually around 200 milligrams, taken with your very first higher-fat meal of the day. Remember that the B vitamins help your body generate NAD, and Q10 is what carries those electrons onward from there. When you pair these two together properly, you are essentially completing an entire internal relay race inside your own cells. Get this fourth piece right, and your energy production becomes noticeably far steadier throughout the entire day, not just briefly. The fifth fix is one people constantly overlook simply because it sounds far too boring to actually pay attention to. It is called TMG, and it acts as what scientists call a methyl donor throughout countless processes in your body. Methylation is involved in DNA repair, neurotransmitter production, and honestly, even dozens of other critical processes happening inside you constantly. Here is the part that connects everything. Your body actually needs proper methylation to produce its own natural Q10 supply. That means TMG sits upstream of nearly everything we have already discussed, quietly enabling the other fixes to work properly. Research has shown that TMG enhances mitochondrial function by increasing something called mitochondrial fusion, which makes individual cells noticeably stronger. Stronger, better connected mitochondria simply tend to survive much longer and perform far more reliably under everyday physical and mental stress. Other research has genuinely shown TMG increases fat oxidation and activates specific genes responsible for building brand new mitochondria altogether. It also meaningfully increases ATP output directly, which is exactly the kind of usable energy this entire conversation is about. Beyond energy, TMG genuinely even supports muscle building and fat loss by streamlining processes and gently reducing systemic inflammation overall. Think of TMG as a clear signal telling your body it is time to actively build new cells and repair. A reasonable daily amount is somewhere between 2 and 5 grams, and timing genuinely does not matter all that much. It is water-soluble, so it always absorbs perfectly fine, without needing to be taken alongside any kind of food. Here is something critically important. If you are already taking NAD or similar compounds, TMG genuinely becomes almost completely essential. Those compounds actually increase your body's methylation demand, and without TMG to replenish it, you can quietly exhaust yourself instead.
Now, before I give you the fifth and final compound, I need you to genuinely understand something extremely important first. This is not something I would casually recommend for everyone, and it should absolutely never be something you use daily. But it might honestly be one of the most fascinating compounds I have personally come across in this entire space. It is methylene blue. And stay with me here, because it is a legitimate FDA-approved compound with real history. It has existed for over 100 years and is still considered an essential medication on international medical lists today. What makes it remarkable in this specific context is that it acts as an alternative electron carrier inside your mitochondria. Some people describe it simply as a taxi driver, moving electrons from point A directly over to point B instead. That description genuinely undersells what is happening, because it actually accepts electrons and donates them straight to a later complex. In doing so, it essentially bypasses several broken sections of a damaged mitochondrial pathway entirely, restoring flow through the system. Published research in molecular neurobiology confirmed this rerouting genuinely increases complex activity, boosts ATP, and reduces oxidative stress simultaneously overall. Unlike many antioxidants that blunt your body's natural adaptive signaling, methylene blue actually behaves far more like a true adaptogen. But here comes the critical caveat, and this part genuinely matters more than almost anything else in this entire script. Methylene blue is extremely dose-dependent, meaning low doses tend to help, while high doses can actually reverse the benefit. Going too high can also interfere with certain medications, so this is absolutely not something to casually experiment with alone.
A cautious, low range would typically stay somewhere around 2 to 8 milligrams and genuinely never used every single day. This is best reserved for genuinely peak demand days, unusually long travel, jet lag recovery, or high-altitude exposure specifically. Please talk to a qualified doctor before ever considering this one, especially if you already take other prescribed medications regularly. This entire compound deserves its own deep, dedicated conversation, so treat this simply as an honest introduction, not full instruction. So let's bring this entire mitochondrial stack together, because simply knowing 5 things means nothing without a clear daily plan. Start your morning with TMG on a completely empty stomach, since it absorbs fine and needs no food alongside it. With your very first meal, one that actually contains some healthy fat, take your methylated B complex together with ubiquinol. That single morning combination alone begins repairing the exact machinery responsible for how quickly your body can produce real energy. Later in the day, if mental clarity is truly your priority, magnesium threonate can genuinely support sharper focus and memory. Before bed, take magnesium glycinate to support deep sleep, which is precisely when true mitochondrial repair actually happens each night. If you are already taking NAD in any form, remember to always pair it with TMG to protect your methylation. And methylene blue, if you ever choose to use it, stays strategic, occasional, and reserved for genuinely demanding days only. None of this requires you to completely overhaul your entire life overnight or spend money you genuinely cannot comfortably afford. It simply requires understanding what your cells actually need instead of endlessly chasing more caffeine or more sugar for energy. Think back to that moment on the couch, standing up, feeling winded, wondering why your body suddenly felt so heavy. That was never really about willpower, motivation, or personal discipline, no matter how many times you may have blamed yourself. It was always about tiny, specific, fixable pieces of cellular machinery quietly waiting for the exact right kind of support. Once you truly understand that, everything about tiredness, sluggish mornings, and sudden fatigue starts to look completely different going forward. You stop chasing quick fixes and start actually repairing the system that produces every single bit of your daily energy. Imagine standing up off that same couch 6 weeks from now and simply walking away without that familiar winded feeling. Imagine breaking into a light, easy run and actually feeling your body keep up instead of instantly falling behind again. That is not some unrealistic fantasy. That is genuinely what properly supported, healthy mitochondria are fully capable of delivering consistently. Your energy was never actually broken beyond repair. It was simply quietly waiting for the right specific inputs all along. Small, consistent, well-timed changes quietly compound in the background every single day until you suddenly notice everything truly feels different. This is not about perfection either. It is about consistency, showing up daily for the machinery inside your own cells. Give your body the exact raw materials it has been quietly asking for this entire time, and genuinely watch closely. Energy is not something you were simply born with or without. It is something you can actively rebuild and repair. Every single fix we covered today genuinely works together as one complete, connected system, not 5 separate, isolated, random ideas. Skip just one piece, and the rest will noticeably struggle to compensate, no matter how perfectly you execute the others. Put them all together properly, consistently, and patiently, and your body finally gets permission to function the way it should. That winded feeling, that sudden crash, that heaviness after standing up, none of that has to be your normal anymore. You now understand exactly why it happens and precisely what your cells genuinely need to stop it from happening again. That kind of knowledge is genuinely rare, and very few people ever take the time to actually understand it deeply. You just did, and that alone already puts you ahead of almost everyone still blaming caffeine, carbs, or simple willpower. So take these 5 fixes, apply them consistently, and give your mitochondria the real support they have needed all along. Your body already knows exactly how to produce energy. It has simply been waiting for you to remove the blockage. Remove that blockage piece by piece and watch how naturally consistent, steady energy simply becomes your new normal moving forward. This is your machinery. This is your energy. And now, finally, this is genuinely within your control to repair.